Hello, my dear friend. Welcome back to the Reflective Parenting Podcast. My name is Cindy Hovington and I'm your host. Today is part two of this two-part series with Laura Petix. She is the author of a kid's book about neurodiversity and a pediatric occupational therapist. And my conversation with her was so important that I wanted to make sure that I broke it down into these two parts so that you had the time to listen to both pieces and really let it sink in. Part one, in case you missed it, I'm going to put the link in the show notes. It's last week's episode where we focused more on our sensory system. Today, we are focusing more on interoception, which is being more attuned with your body and knowing what is going on inside. And the reason why I wanted to break it up in these two pieces is because very often parents tell me they go from 0 to 100. And that to me is a sign that there's lack of awareness of the 1 to 99. And so I really wanted to make sure that we first understood that our senses and our environment impact our nervous system. And when that's impacted, and so if you're a parent listening to this, perhaps last week you realized that certain noises, or if you have a baby at home and a toddler, and you realize that your patience are thinner by the end of the day, but you've been holding a baby in your arms all day, maybe your sense of touch is overstimulated. Maybe it's clutter in your home that now you've realized when you do clean up and put things away, that you have more patience. It's weird to look at it this way, but all of these things around us in our environment all contribute somehow to our nervous system and how we regulate our emotions. It's not just about taking a deep breath or pausing. And that pause, by the way, is so hard, especially if we're not even aware of what is contributing to making us feel like we want to explode. And so I really wanted to dive deep into this and really look at this in two parts. So now that you understand how important your nervous system is, today we're diving into interoception. Laura is going to explain what this is. We're going to go into details. And I hope that by the end of this episode, you see just how important interoception is. For those of you listening that are part of the Reflective Parenting Club, because numbers are going up, and I'm so excited that many of you are realizing that listening to the podcast is part of the work. It is a self-awareness piece. It's that piece that's going to allow you to say, oh yeah, that does affect me. But now that you know it, you need practice. It's like saying, hey, I love tennis. This is great. I do want to start playing tennis. But now I'm putting you in a tournament and you need to practice those skills. That is what emotion regulation is. It's a skill. And so parents joining the club are saying, okay, I'm done with feeling guilty that I'm yelling at my child, or I'm done with worrying that I'm messing them up because of my own anxieties or my own reactions to their behaviors. I want to make sure that I feel confident in every interaction with my child, even in the interactions where I mess up a little bit and I yell, which are not going to be as many, but even in the ones that you do, you'll say, you know what? I had a hard day today. I was tired. You're going to show up with self-compassion. And that's what the Reflective Parent Club is. I know that I promised you a couple weeks ago. I just met with a parent this week who said, I'm waiting for the course to come out separately because I don't have the time to meet with you every single week. So I have two things. First, it's not out yet, and I'm really working hard because as I was breaking up the course and adding a little bit more material to it, I realized that there were a few other things that I wanted to add to make it really beneficial for all of you. So the individual course is not out yet. It's coming. But for parents who say they don't have enough time, it is 1 hour a week, 12 p.m. Eastern or 8 p.m. Eastern. And the parents that did join that say, I'm testing it out to see if this is worth my time, notice how stress has decreased in their life overall because of the 1 hour of dedication that they're putting into their lives every single week. And so I truly encourage you. I wish you could hear from the parents that are joining now and it's their second year, because of how important it is to have, one, a community, but two, to have the consistency of reflecting on your week and really applying this. And so I encourage you to give it a try. I'm giving everybody a free week so that you can join one call and see if it works for you. So click the link in the show notes for that. And so this week inside the club, for those of you listening, we talked about our sensory system last week. This week, we are truly diving deeper into interoception and understanding what that means and how that applies to you in your life and how you can support and model this for your child. All right, let's not wait anymore. Thank you to the Tannenbaum Open Science Institute for supporting this podcast, as well as the McConnell Foundation. And thank you, my dear listener, for supporting this podcast. Make sure you've clicked on that subscribe button And if you have a friend that really struggles with yelling at their kids, even if their kid is only 18 months old, or they feel like they might be reacting in ways that I guess they worry that it might mess up their kids, please share this episode with them. Make sure that they get this information, because interoception is a skill that we don't talk about enough. And so many parents might think that they're failing at regulating their emotions, but don't even realize that they need to practice this skill of understanding what's first going on inside their body. So take this episode and share it. It's on YouTube, it's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Spotify. There are easy links to share. And even if you don't know how to do it, send me an email at info@curiousround.com and I will help you. I will send you the links directly. Even if you just want to say hi, come say hi, send me an email. Let me know topics that you'd like me to listen to. And if you leave a rating and write a review for the podcast, let me know. I will send you a special discount code, so that it's my little way of saying thanks. All right, let's get into it. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Laura Petix. So let's talk about emotion regulation skills for a minute. That's what we talk about a lot here, obviously at Curious Neuron and here on the podcast. But specifically, when you are neurodiverse, you might have more struggles. And I've heard parents too come up to me and say, like, I've tried everything. I follow every single parenting advice, and nothing is working. And so my child just has all these big emotions, and they last for a long time, and I don't know what to do. And now I'm stressed and I'm not doing well as a parent. What can you say in terms of, not just maybe some advice, but a parent who's really trying everything and noticing like nothing works with their child? Maybe their child doesn't have any diagnosis, but is really struggling to regulate. How do we start the process of trying to support our child when nothing is working?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. And when I talk about emotional regulation with kids, I can't talk about that without talking about interoception, which again is
Hmm.
one of the eight
I love that.
senses,
Mm,
right? So that
eight.
I always talk to parents about interoception and how that
Yeah.
feeds into emotional regulation, and how we should really be thinking more about proactively regulating the nervous system
Mm,
and supporting interoception consistently and proactively, not always just reactively. And when I think of emotional regulation, I think there's top down approaches, which for parents listening, top down means like your brain is basically like telling your body what to do. So if you're doing self talk, like it's okay, I can try again tomorrow, it's okay that I lost today, that kind of
mm,
inner coach talk, great, those are top down strategies. Or me saying, okay, I didn't get to go first today. I'll let my sister go because I know she really likes it. And my mom said I could. All of the self talk
mm,
and the I'm feeling mad right now and I'm allowed to feel mad. Talking and labeling emotions are all great things that we all need our kids to be better aware of.
hmm.
But one, that's a top down approach,
Yeah.
which not a lot of kids can access all the time. And
Hmm.
not only that, for some kids, and I would say most for a lot of neurodivergent kids, it doesn't quite connect for them. These are just like
Mm.
words that we've told them, right?
Right. Mm,
Some kids like that, the feeling like saying mad is like abstract to them, but it's like, okay, my mom keeps labeling that I must be mad because my
mhm,
trucks fell over, but I don't really know if I connect with the word mad. I feel
mhm,
like Hulk right now,
mm,
or I feel like something else. So I think top-down approaches are
mm,
helpful for a lot of kids, but when it comes to neurodivergent kids, they might need a different approach and or like an added approach. So we also need a bottom-up approach. So top-down is brain talking to body and verbal reminders and talking through our feelings. Bottom up approach is when we use our body to talk to our brain. And this
mm,
is like really the magic of it all, because you don't really need to say a word. You just need to trick your brain into thinking that you're safe, because the meltdowns, the saying bad words to parents, the pushing siblings, the running and hiding, the screaming, that's all from the part of the nervous system that says that this is unsafe right now. And it's being activated
mhm.
automatically. So we need
Right.
to cue the brain and tell the brain, this is not an emergency. My body is safe. But it's not listening to your words.
Mm-mm.
You get there through some proprioceptive input, some diaphragmatic breathing, turning down the lights, a lot of different sensory and body strategies to get the body in a place where it feels safe and comfortable. Now, the work happens when we can help parents help kids get more cues of safety more regularly throughout their day and throughout and proactively, so that their nervous system is less close to bubbling at the surface, right? Parents say my kid
Mm,
goes from 0 to 100. I always say, well, they're not really at 0. If you have a
yeah,
neurodivergent child, they're like at 90. So we need to
right.
just actively bring down their nervous system. So when there's something that would be the last straw, or the last 10% that would get them to 100, they have more room. They have more wiggle room
Mm.
to maintain regulation.
That's so good. So I get the same question, but from parents, right? So I work with the parents and their regulation. And what they tell me I go from 0 to 100 and I yell at my child and I lose my mind. And my response to that is there was a 1 to 99, but our awareness wasn't there, right? The self-awareness piece,
Yeah.
but that's for adults. But
Yeah.
I love what you were saying. And I love the idea of like creating more of that buffer, right? So that
Yes,
it's not
that's
as close
exactly
to
it.
100. Yeah,
Cushion,
that's how I
buffer.
see it in my head.
That reminded me, I forgot to come back to interoception, but your point about parents not being aware that we are at a level 90 is the same for our
Mm-hmm.
kids.
Right.
Interoception
Mm,
is our sensation and awareness of our internal body states. So when you can
mm,
feel your heart pounding out of your chest,
mm,
when you can feel your stomach in knots, when you can feel yourself overheating, when you can feel yourself having to go to the bathroom, when you can feel yourself getting hungry,
mhm.
all of those sensations are inside your body. Those are interoception cues. And there is an interoception sensation linked for every emotion.
Mm,
And it's different per person. For me, that's why when you hear people say, my anxiety lives in my chest or in my
mhm,
stomach, it's where in your body do you feel it, right? That's interoception. So
mm,
for a child who is constantly going from 0 to 100, he probably has some interoception sensations that are triggering him that he can't even express, but it's
yeah,
happening. It's happening. So if we can find ways to explore that with them at neutral times,
mm,
they might be able to pair it together and say, actually, I do notice that sometimes. And just
mhm.
once you give your kids the language to talk about it, uh, a lot of them will just surprise you and
Right.
start
It's
labeling
true.
things. Yeah.
Well, you said something really important right now. You said at neutral times.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I just want to emphasize that
Very important.
because, right? Because I think sometimes it's during the big emotions when we're like, take deep breaths, or you remember, go get your blanket or your stuffy, or try this or do that. And then it's new. And they're like, what? Now you're telling me that all of a
Yeah.
sudden we have this calm down corner and I'm like
Yeah.
going to lose my mind. And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so it's in the moments of calm that we start or revisiting. I always tell parents, after something has happened, you revisit it and
Sure.
start talking about it. So would you recommend the same thing in like those moments of
Yeah.
calm to teach those skills?
Yes, absolutely. I think of, even if it's not the meltdown, I always talk about this in context of a meltdown because a lot of
Mm,
neurodivergent parents deal with that. But let's say it could be meltdown, it could be dysregulation, it could be something.
yeah.
But I always talk about the phases as before the meltdown, during the meltdown,
Yeah.
after the meltdown, and then between the meltdowns. And
Right.
out
Yeah.
of all of those 4 phases, the 3 most effective times you have to teach your child are before, after, and between. Like, the
Yeah.
during is really nothing special.
No.
It's just keep them safe.
Mm,
There's not a lot of technique. It's really more within yourself and keeping them safe. So you have 3 out of
mm,
4 options,
mm.
and time points to teach your child these skills. And once you're in the moment, you kind of pause everything and then you continue after.
Yeah.
So a really great experiment to help uh, start introducing interoception to your child is, at a neutral time, either find like a dance song that they like that will get them jumping and moving really fast, or if they like cartwheels, or if you want to see like how fast can it take to get you from here to that back fence, whatever. We're trying to get their heart rate up.
Mhm.
Once they do that, then we have them feel their
Mm,
heart. And then
right.
we even, if you have a Fitbit or Apple Watch or something that they can actually see, kids love that. But if not, it's okay.
Mm,
Try to feel it. And then you feel theirs. We're all feeling each other's hearts. And then we do 10 seconds of breathing or squeezing or a hug and a
mm,
sway. And then we check the heart again and we're saying, oh, yours feels slower. Okay, let's
Mm,
try it again. We go run. And then now, instead of like breathing, we scream and jump and move our arms and legs around and say, did that slow down your heart?
mm.
No, that one
Right.
didn't work. And then, so that could be one, that's interoception. But then later, what happens is, after the meltdown, okay, I know you didn't really like it when I had to hug you really
Mm,
tight. I had to keep your body safe during the meltdown. You know what I noticed? Your heart was going to pound all the way out of your chest. I felt it. Do you remember what we tried the other day that made our heartbeat slower? I forget what it was. Was
mm.
it moving really fast or slow? Oh, that's right. Let's try that again. You did it. And you kind of like are
Mm.
practicing it. That is interoception. That is
That's amazing. Mm,
emotional regulation without having to say, calm down. It's not a
exa
big deal.
Yeah.
We can try again tomorrow. Like you're really sad. But this is like they took control of their nervous system at that point and neutralized the enemy,
Mhm,
the
mhm.
sympathetic nervous system, right?
Mm. I
Yeah.
love that. I wanna get into that with adults in a second, but first, you mentioned meltdown, and maybe there are parents listening to this not sure what the difference between a tantrum and a meltdown is. Can you just explain that to us? And then I wanna get into adults a little bit because I think that's an interesting, part.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when I refer to meltdowns, I do differentiate it from tantrums. And my intro statement is tantrums are a healthy part of development. It's a
Mhm.
part that every toddler experiences. Even some older kids will still. That's how they're expressing
Yeah.
their being upset with something not going how they wanted or something that they really want. Typically, a meltdown, especially sometimes they're labeled autistic meltdowns, although I
Mm,
see it happen in so many different kinds of neurodivergent kids. But a meltdown is really more of a nervous system response, something that's not in their control, something that typically will last longer and even take longer to de escalate and may have sort of like a hangover effect on the child,
mm,
even after whatever was like done, right? Like
mm.
if it was a loud sound or if it was like something broke and you fixed it, they still might have like a really big kind of residual tail of
Right.
trying to come out of the meltdown. A lot of the time it's related to sensory triggers. It
Mhm,
can be emotional, but again, even when I see or hear emotional trigger, I still hear interoception. So for me, it's still a sensory trigger. I
mm,
can't separate those. And that includes also like anxiety and fear based. Like it's like if you think of a meltdown as like a panic attack, you
mm,
almost become more compassionate toward the person
mm.
because it makes you realize that they're not really in control.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Thank
quick
you.
spiel for it.
I wanted to talk about that for a minute because I feel that sometimes we're on the other side of this, right? There might be parents who have a child, who's neurodiverse, and has these meltdowns, but there might be a parent listening to this who doesn't know what that is. And so if you see this in public or you're at a birthday party and the child is struggling and you can tell the difference, this is not a regular tantrum. I just want them to be aware of that, which is why I wanted you to bring that up. To kind of like close our conversation, we've spoken a lot about the kids, but you mentioned something a couple times now. I think about co-regulation and being like, there's the line that I had heard. Oh man, I forget who said it, but a dysregulated adult can't regulate a dysregulated child. I forget who it was. I know it's somebody
Yeah,
big. I'll find
yeah,
it and put in the show notes. But
yeah,
all that to say, so many parents that we work with and I speak with inside the Reflective Parent Club or that are part of Curious Neuron struggle themselves with regulating their emotions, struggle themselves with sensory issues that they only realize now that they're a parent, do not, or some of them don't even recognize that interoception that you talked about. I ask them, certain emotions that they feel, and it's really hard to know where they're experiencing it. But now that we're parents, we have to support our child. In addition to that, some parents also received a diagnosis later on of
yeah.
ADHD, and now they're like, hold on a second. I have to understand my child and regulate with them. But now I know that I struggle with it too, and it all makes sense to me now. It's just so much happening. So, what can you say to the parent maybe who is like maybe they've received a diagnosis and they're like, what does this mean? How can I even support my child? If I'm trying to figure myself out.
I think that there is something so powerful to be an adult, a trusted adult in a
Mm,
child's life who is willing and honest and vulnerable to say, I don't have all the answers and I'm learning with you too, right? Just on anything.
Mhm. That's
Like, I'm
yeah.
not a math expert, so let's look that up together.
Mhm.
I'm not an expert in ADHD, but I found out that both of us have very similar brains. That's
Mhm.
so cool. And I also learned that even though we have similar brains, there's some things that stand out more to your brain or that matter more to your brain than they do mine, and some things that bother your body that don't mine. And I just think that's so cool. And so inviting them along to be a detective, I like to call it a
Mhm.
detective. Let's pick up clues. Let's learn together. So I think first and foremost, don't to try not to feel like you have to be this captain of the ship and you know all
Mhm.
the answers and you are leading the way. You could say, hold their hand and let's do it together. And as you're doing that, that allows them you're normalizing the
Mhm.
experience that you're not always just telling your kids what to do and telling them to calm down. You can call out yourself and your child can call you out too and
Mhm.
say, are you feeling overwhelmed? So once I started, because I used to be of the mindset where I had to be this always calm parent. I didn't want my daughter to see me cry or upset. And then I would beat myself up if I did. And then I would not want to talk about it because
Mhm.
I mean, I would apologize, but
Right.
I wouldn't talk about it. I
Mm.
would just be like, you know what? Mommy shouldn't have yelled. I'm sorry, which is great. Great
Mhm.
to start there. But I also, over time, started just narrating it. You know what? Oh, I'm so frustrated right now because we're in traffic and we're going to be 10 minutes late. And my heart beats so fast when we're going to be late. It makes me so stressed out. My
Mm.
hands get tight. I'm feeling hot. Oh, I need to turn on the air. And I'm just talking myself through this.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
then sometimes she's like, "Oh, I feel that way too." Or sometimes she doesn't
Mm.
say anything. But
Mm.
then the next time she'll say, "Oh, Mommy, don't forget to bring your fan because you get stressed in the parking lot."
That's
Like
so good.
it's just my
Yeah.
daughter's 7.5 now, but
Yeah.
we've been talking like this since
She's
she's
so big. Yeah.
3, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
Mm.
it's really saying being willing to narrate what you're feeling.
Mhm.
Literally say like, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time finding my words. My, like mommy's brain is really
Mhm.
thinking of too many things at once. So just calling it out,
Mm.
I think is a really good start. And if you can narrate what you feel, because as you said, dysregulation is contagious,
Mhm.
right? So it's like
Yep.
it's like something you can catch in the air. Just like if
Mhm.
you see someone yawn, you're gonna yawn.
Yeah.
Um, but regulation is contagious as well.
Mhm.
And I learned that if you are dysregulated, you can sort of have a shield to the people in your room so that they don't get dysregulated if you call it out. The worst is to act like it's not happening, right?
Mm.
So like imagine you're like in the kitchen, you're annoyed at work and your partner or spouse didn't do what they were supposed to and your kids and you're just like slamming cupboards, well, like huffing and puffing, outward obviously dysregulated. Someone asks you, "Okay, I'm fine."
Yeah.
And they're like,
Why do
"Oh,
we
you're
do that?
not
Yeah, I
you're
know.
not fine."
You're not.
No one believes you and then
No.
everyone is on high alert.
Yeah.
So I start
Yeah.
saying, "You know what? I've had a really long day. It's kind of loud in here. I'm going to put my headphones on. No one touch me. No one talk to me.
Mhm.
I'm not mad. I really need to focus, and this is what I need right now. I'm not mad at you. I just don't want to talk." All of that, just calling it out beforehand helps so much
Mm.
because now all of a sudden everyone is like, "Oh, okay, she's fine. It's not about me. She's going to do her own thing." But calling out your dysregulation can help
Right.
prevent them from catching your dysregulation. So that's a really big step for parents.
That is huge. And I think it's such an important take home for all of us, right? Like calling out what your needs are. Why do we somehow, or why do we kind of ignore them? Why do we ignore our needs and pretend like I don't need like the headset? One of my friends had
Yeah.
bought loops. Is it loops?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And she was like, Cindy, it changed my life because I
Yep.
was so mad and mean
Yep.
to my kids during dinner
Yep.
time when I was preparing dinner because who has a question? Who needs
Yeah.
help with homework? And so I would become a different person. And she started
Yes.
using those and she's like, my life changed. I'm a better person. But why do we ignore it and try to fit ourselves into like this box of like, you have to do it this way and you can't put headsets when why?
And
It's
that,
yeah.
I don't know if it's because well, I do know it's because we weren't brought up to think that that's okay, or we've made it this
Mm.
long. Why am I not being able to tolerate like the volume, right?
Yeah.
This is the problem I
Yeah.
notice a lot with late identified neurodivergent parents
Mm.
who have gone our whole lives without fidgets, without headphones, and now we're
Mhm.
like, why would I use that? Like, I know I'm autistic or I have ADHD, but like went my whole life without it.
Yeah.
And so like giving yourself permission, like my desk is full of fidgets. I can't go
I see,
anywhere
I love
without
it.
it
Yeah.
now that I finally was like, I have a whole basket of fidgets that are there for demonstration, like for parent consults. And I was like, I need these fidgets.
Yeah.
And it helps me so much. And so I think giving yourself permission to use them is such a good modeling for our kids. So if you just
Mm.
want to at least shift it in your mind and say whether it's not you're ignoring your needs or you don't think you need it, use it to just at least model it for your kids. And then if
Mhm.
it helps you along the way, then great.
Yeah. I've spoken to some parents that it was interesting. So their child went through the diagnosis for ADHD, and then the parent, as they were hearing these questions, and they started asking themselves, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is what I've
Yeah.
had." There was a
Yeah.
dad in particular. He wasn't. It's not that he was upset, but sort of, in the sense that he was like, they didn't do that testing when I was young, and so I was put on antidepressants, and now I'm, in my 40s, and
Yeah.
it wasn't that. It was ADHD, and I was struggling with
Yeah.
my behavior, and I had some anxiety mixed with that. And so there was a bit of like, I wish they would have done that, and tested me when I was younger. Do you meet a lot of parents that feel this way?
So many parents
Mm,
that I talk to are either newly diagnosed or like
mm,
starting to suspect it.
right. I meet
Um,
so many. Right.
and it's just the amount of like you just have flashbacks and you see memories in like
Hmm.
different. It's like I talk about it like I have a different filter on my memories now. When I'm like,
Mm,
I'll have that. I was like, I remember thinking about that memory, but I'm like, now it's way different. When knowing what I know now, I'm like,
mm,
oh, that totally makes sense. And
mm,
there's so many different feelings that come with that. There's a lot of grief. There's a
mm,
lot of, guilt. There's a lot of disappointment, but then there's a lot of relief. And there's a lot of the sense of like, I wasn't wrong this whole time. And
right.
yeah, it's a
There's a
very
validation.
there's a big validation
Yeah.
about our earlier experiences, and then it's very tricky as someone myself who is now late identified,
Mm,
who has been with my partner since before I knew I
mm,
had ADHD. So it's a tricky part to navigate in a partnership with it's or even in your personal and family circles with people who knew you before, and
mhm.
then now all of a sudden, and you're trying to unmask or let yourself be who you are
Right.
and use fidgets. And for me, I'm way stronger about my boundaries. Like I won't go to a certain party at a certain time or I'll
Mm,
leave early. Like I'm just like, I'm protecting my nervous system.
yeah.
Some people might think like you were like, now all of a sudden you're have
Yeah.
ADHD. Like you were fine before. I was like, I wasn't fine.
Mm,
I was hiding a lot of it and it was really burning me out.
mm,
So there's a really like bumpy road to like acceptance for some people.
right. I hope that this conversation leads to some parents, who feel like they see some of the signs and symptoms in themselves to kind of, I mean, just at least starting the steps of like questioning
Yeah.
whether or not, because it helps you understand yourself. And like you said, you were going to those parties before and now you're not, or
Yeah.
you're leaving early.
Yeah.
But the point is that because now you know the impact that it has
Yeah.
on your nervous system, you can still go and stay there,
Yeah.
but you'll have the consequences. They won't see that. You'll have to deal with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm not, and I'm going to lead by example, show my daughter that I can
Mm,
compromise, I can bring accommodations. And I also know when to listen to my body and know that it's not going to be a good idea if I stay
right.
longer or anything like that.
Um, I want to ask one last question. If a parent is listening to this and they know that in their school, their child's classroom, or in their school, or a child at the park in the neighborhood, clearly, is neurodivergent and has some struggles socially, how would you have the conversation with your child without pushing them to go play with them, but to kind of explain to them, I guess, using your book, and then what are some, steps that you can take with your child to help them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the first things that I introduce to kids when I'm talking to them about neurodiversity starts with the
Mm,
brain. So I always just make it sound like a very fun science anatomy lesson. Like, do you know where your brain is? Where is
mm,
your brain? Right. And for different ages, you make this adjusted per age.
right.
Do you know what your brain's job is? Like, what does
Mm-hmm.
your brain do? Just open-ended. What do you think it does? And see what their answers are. And there's some creative ones, there's
Yeah.
some like very like, yeah, that's right. And then you also include, if they didn't already, yeah, the brain helps your body think. It helps you talk to people. Your brain helps you remember the words to your favorite song. It helps you move your body. Your
Mm-hmm.
brain is really important. And then sometimes for kids, this is what I do in my assembly for neurodiversity. I even stop and I'll play Simon Says. I'll say, wait, pause real quick. Simon Says. Simon Says, put your finger on your nose. Simon Says, put your hands on your head. And then you go, whoa, how did you do that? How did your hand know to move?
Hmm.
Let's let them
Right.
guess and say, your
Yeah.
brain sent a message to your hand. So that's
Mm.
so cool. Now, everybody has that. Everybody has those wires. Everyone has a brain. Everyone has a body. But the way that all of those pieces connect can be different around
Mm.
people. And that's something we called neurodiversity. And it's such a big word. I still say it to 4-year-olds. I say, can
Mm-hmm.
you say neurodiversity? And like have them say it back. And then I'll say, if I'm talking to the child themselves, I'm saying, your brain sometimes feels uncomfortable when there are too many people at the playground. Remember
Mm-hmm.
last week we went and you really like going on the slide first, but
Mm.
last time there was like 5 kids there. That your brain sent a message to your body that didn't feel good. And so you made you upset, right? Yeah, I know. So this time when we go, let's help your body feel comfortable before we go look at what the slide is like. So you're kind of introducing again,
Mm.
brain is making your body feel this way. And you would call out something specific if you're trying to help your child understand
Right.
that the way that they communicate. I basically categorize it. Neurodiversity to kids, I say, makes people communicate differently, play differently, experience the world differently, and learn differently. And that allows you to pull out examples from if they need a fidget in the classroom, or if they
Mm-hmm.
need, hearing, like a hearing device in the classroom, or if they communicate using an AAC device
Mm.
or gestures, or if they communicate by stimming and they
Mm-hmm.
flap their hands, which means they're excited.
Mm.
So if parents can just remember those 4 things: communicate, learn, play, and then experience the world, which is really just calling out the sensory experience of the world.
Right.
And you could come up with an example that relates to your child for each of those. It'll be really easy. That's a kid's version of
Right.
understanding and noticing neurodiversity.
Thank you. I think that gives us a really good framework because I think sometimes we don't know how to explain it, right? And so I want
Yeah.
parents to have that framework to talk to their child about it. Laura, I knew I
Yeah.
would have trouble stopping this conversation because I love
I
talking
know,
to you.
Sam. I was like, we're
I'm
going
gonna
way over, but it's okay.
I'm gonna find a reason to talk to you again soon. But Laura,
I love it.
congratulations on your book. I absolutely love your work. And I have to say you are one of the people online that influenced me the most to buy things, but then they're always in the States and it's different and I
Oh,
can't get
I'm
them in
sorry
Canada.
for that.
Between the stuff that you hang on your door and
Listen,
that hammock stuff, like you
on
have the
behalf
coolest
of
things.
this on behalf of this country, I would like to extend my deepest apologies to
Aw.
you over there
Oh,
in Canada,
we
because
love you guys. It's okay. I
yes,
know.
I need you guys to adopt me actually at
Mm-hmm.
some
Yeah.
point.
Well,
So
there's room in my house if you want to come. Oh, I love it. I actually went to California for the first time last year. I need to find a reason to come back, so let me know. Whatever.
Disneyland calls.
Right? Always. Oh my gosh, that's another you're one of the people I love following the most. Anyways, I
Yeah,
will put
yeah,
your handle, Instagram handle in the show notes. Is there any other
great.
way that people can learn from you? Do you have anything available to learn more? And I'll put
Yeah.
your link to your book as well.
Yeah, so I will give you the links. I don't have them off the top of my head,
Yeah.
but I have some great resources for parents. So the book, of course, is a great place to start. But I also, because I did an assembly for kids on neurodiversity, I got a lot of parents that were like, can you come fly to my school and do this? I can't go
Right.
everywhere, but I
Okay.
made the slide deck available for parents to purchase if they would like to host the assembly at their
Perfect.
child's school.
That's
Very
very
easy
good.
for them to do.
Hmm.
So I'll put a link to that. And then
Mm-hmm.
my newsletter is called The Sensory Code, and each month I break down a case study of a previous coaching client and I give all of the details and how I worked through certain things. And it has a lot of value and education, really, really able to dive deep on each person and each kind of behavior or skill that we worked on through a sensory lens. So a lot of parents have been loving that. So I'll give you the link for that for parents to subscribe to that as well.
Perfect. And are you still coaching parents in case some people are interested?
I am. I am still taking one-on-one clients, and so I'll send you the link for that.
I
All
will.
of it will be
Perfect.
there.
I think that's very important. Thank you again, Laura.
Yes.
And I can't wait to
Thanks,
talk to you
Cindy.
again.
Yay, can't wait.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Laura Petix and that you learned a lot about your nervous system and interoception. These are skills that are going to allow you to learn how to regulate your emotions with time. There's something that Laura said that I think I just want to emphasize. I think this was from the first study, the first part of this podcast. She says our kids borrow our nervous system before they can regulate their own. I just want to say this out loud so that it kind of sits with us as a reflection for the week and a reminder for the week that our kids truly are looking towards us. And so if we struggle to regulate emotions, yet we get mad at them for not regulating, it isn't fair. We need to start with our own nervous system. And it's not to point fingers at us in terms of the problem, it's to point fingers at us in terms of the solution, rather than trying to give our kids all of these behavioral tips and trying to help them regulate by teaching them certain things. We can still do that, but we also need to do the same with us. Remember, our kids borrow our nervous system. And if we can't keep our nervous system calm, so many things, by the way, lead to us not having a calm nervous system. We learned about our sensory, overstimulation these past 2 weeks. But adversity from our childhood and our past can lead to a nervous system that struggles to regulate. Trauma can lead to a nervous system that we struggle to regulate. And so, if we were in these environments also growing up that were very chaotic, our stress system might be more reactive. Even if you are a parent listening to this right now saying, I'm always very calm, but you are suppressing, that is not regulating your emotions. And I've worked with many dads, both privately and inside the club, that felt that they were not dysregulated, but their partners were. And now that they've understood self awareness and what that looks like, they realize that they were also not regulated, but they were regulated in a way, they were dysregulated in a way where they suppress and push down, and it comes out very differently. And so learning how to regulate is having having a way for your emotions to externalize that is healthy, that is healthy for you and your child. And so let's remember this. Our kids borrow our nervous system before they can regulate their own. They will continue to look towards us. Even if you have a 12-year-old, they are still borrowing part of your nervous system. And so the more we learn how to regulate, the more we can support them in learning the skill that will support their nervous system and their well-being and mental health later on. There was a study that found that parents who notice body cues are less likely to suppress their emotions or overreact, and can also handle stress better because of their interoception skills. So this was a study that I'm going to put in the show notes from Zamariola. This is a 2019 study in the Journal of Affective Disorders, and we talked about this article inside the club. I posted about it on Instagram, so make sure you are following me on Instagram if you are there. You can even join Facebook, search the Reflective Parent Club Facebook. We have the Reflective Parenting Podcast on Facebook. And this particular study was really interesting because, again, it showed that the more aware we are of what's happening inside our body, so heartbeat, our tension, our breath, feelings in our gut, well, then the better we were able to regulate our emotions. So when we get that knot in our stomach, or we notice that our breath is, or our breathing is a little bit more shallow, those are little signs that if we can notice that, the beginning of that, which is usually how it begins, then these interoception skills lead to us knowing that we have to change something in our environment, step away from our child, speak up, set a boundary or something. And that leads to us learning how to regulate, and it decreases our stress. And so I'm going to put the link to that article in the show notes. We'll be talking about it more inside the club. Thank you to all of you for listening to this podcast. I hope you are enjoying it. Please make sure you leave a rating and a review to let me know, or email me at info@curiousneuron.com. And share this episode with friends and family so that they can know how important this skill is. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next Monday. Bye.